When threat forces decide to hold an area, defense is based on an anti-armor framework designed to repel attack from all directions. The enemy has the type and quantity of engineer resources to carry out mine-laying tasks and rapid digging, and thus can make the transition from offense to defense in a short period of time. The defense is organized in depth, incorporating a security zone and a main defense belt. The advancing force will encounter many obstacles in the security zone and as it penetrates the main defense belt. Engineers providing close support to the force will be required to perform all types of tasks. Engineers must be grouped to overcome minor natural and artificial obstacles, and the resources must be protected while moving and working if they are to give effective support. Mobility tasks in support of the force involve reconnaissance, mine clearing, minefield breaching, gap crossing, clearing debris, barricades and routes, and in maintenance and construction activities. Route reconnaissance is conducted in conjunction with the advancing division covering force and the brigade screens. It involves determination of going, classification and location of routes through or around obstacles, and assessments of time and resources required to make routes passable to the advancing main body. Minor artificial obstacles will have to be dealt with, and engineers will become involved in clearing booby traps, which may be incorporated in obstacles and randomly laid in built-up areas. Opening lanes through wire barriers, obstructing mounted and dismounted approaches. Clearing nuisance mines from minor obstacles, ford sites, and in likely assembly areas. And clearing abattis from roads and tracks. Minefield breaching will be required to maintain the momentum of the offense. Breaching will normally be limited to hasty techniques by armored engineers or armored units. Throughout the offensive battle, the Corps will encounter a number of short gaps which will impede its movement. Gap crossing resources are grouped by type at various levels to provide sufficient support to the formation without causing unnecessary logistical problems. The resources include support bridging, consisting of fixed and floating bridges, amphibious bridging resources, and assault bridging, such as armored vehicle-launched bridges. Within the division, gap crossing centers mainly on the AVLBs of the armored engineer squadrons. Its bridges must be quickly recovered or replaced once the advancing elements have crossed. Small gaps can be traversed by fascines emplaced by a variety of equipments. Class 60 support bridging is used in a variety of tasks throughout the Corps area. It is centrally held and controlled at Corps level, with only limited quantities held within a division. The only support bridging found within the division is the medium girder bridge. Each division engineer support regiment holds sets of MGB to allow for the recovery and reuse of the AVLB's bridges in the assault role. Additional sets of MGB are held by the Corps Engineer Support Group and are intended for use during the later stages of a deliberate crossing or for spanning larger gaps. The Corps Amphibious Engineer Regiment holds the remaining support bridging resources. It is comprised of 2 amphibious squadrons and a floating bridge squadron. The amphibious squadrons hold self-propelled bridge elements, while the floating bridge squadron is equipped with workboats and floating pontoons that can be linked together. The regiment is capable of constructing and operating rafts and ferries. Engineers supporting a force which must move through a built-up area may become involved in the clearance of debris and barricades. This is a time and resource-consuming activity. Tasks involving the maintenance and construction of routes mainly include filling of craters, laying trackway and matting, constructing bypasses, bridges and culverts, graveling and grading of routes, and removing or clearing snow. The primary counter-mobility task in support of an advancing force is flank protection. Here, engineers assist by denying routes to the enemy, preparing hasty obstacles on likely enemy approaches, and by planning and coordinating use of rapid response scatterable mine systems in cooperation with the Division G3 and artillery staff. Survivability tasks in the offense involve assisting forces digging in against an expected counterattack. General engineering support in the offense involves the leapfrogging of water points to keep pace with the advancing force, the maintenance and construction of helipads, and the production of engineer intelligence. To maintain the momentum of offensive operations, the CDE's estimate will concentrate on identifying what obstacles are likely to be encountered and the planned grouping of resources to overcome them. Major crossings such as those involving rivers and lakes must be dealt with by higher-level engineer resources, since the division has no integral amphibious capability. Major forested areas will require additional mobility support for the offensive force. Major minefields will also require increased engineer support. These resources must be ordered early and deployed to best suit the needs for security and availability. In addition, the estimate considers routes and going, the number, load classification and condition of forward and lateral routes, as well as off-route going. This helps determine the degree of engineer support needed and the ease with which engineer equipment can be moved and harbored. Additionally, weather, hours of darkness, and location of populated areas must be brought into the estimate. Offensive planning involves the general intentions of the enemy, the time available for him to prepare obstacles and defensive works, his engineer manpower and resources available to construct and carry out denial operations, the deployment security of our engineers on the move, and their protection while at the task site. In most cases, engineer reconnaissance elements and other resources must be deployed well forward to identify engineer tasks and to bring engineer resources into action in the shortest period of time. During offensive operations, tasks vary from multitudes of close support activities which dictate decentralized control to those which require centralized control of division and assigned corps engineer resources, such as major obstacle crossing. Control involves a balance between the need to deploy engineer resources as close as possible to the task and yet provide for their security. Engineer elements may be grouped under command of the advance force, such as in a covering force mission, when engineer support would be in the form of reconnaissance and assault crossing elements. Engineers with the advance guard, normally a field squadron and elements of an armored engineer squadron, are assigned in support and under command for movement. They are tasked to report enemy activity, to report on and find routes around or through obstacles, and provide support during assaults on enemy positions. The main body would normally contain the majority of the division engineer resources, with a field squadron grouped in support of each brigade. The remaining resources would permit the CDE the flexibility of applying the engineer effort where it is most needed as the battle develops. Engineer elements assigned to flank and rearguard forces will vary in size with the threat and would be equipped with rapid mine laying and digging capability. They would normally be grouped in support and under command for movement. Engineer resources are critical to the success of a division attack against a part of the enemy main defense area, and they should be deployed well forward with the force they are supporting. Engineer resources should be dispersed and well concealed from air and ground observation. Captured enemy equipment, engineer and defense stores would be used whenever possible to minimize the need to move our own resources forward. The field troops supporting the leading battle groups are seldom without additional engineer resources provided from the Division Engineer Support Regiment or from the Armored Engineers. These may include AVLBs and AEVs with fascine loads, possibly some rollers, plows, or explosive lane clearing charges. Engineer heavy equipment such as dozers, front-end loaders, and trucks with Class 60 trackway or matting. some mine dispensing systems or mechanical mine layers for laying of flank minefields, and possibly some water crossing resources such as assault boats or rafting elements. The division's engineers are a key element in maintaining the momentum of offensive operations. Their work is demanding, and they require the maximum of support and protection. Wherever possible, obstacles should be circumvented so as to only commit engineer resources when absolutely necessary.